The idea of subliminal messages is unthinkable because we've been trained to think enacting laws a corporation may not like is interference in the free market and socialistic. The corporation versus socialism is a false paradigm, both of which create their own special version of hell on earth. The socialist utopia is unattainable due to corruption and sloth. The corporate capitalist utopia is unattainable due to selfishness and greed. Thomas Jefferson believed there were two main political forces. These forces evolve into two basic parties, one being the authoritarian aristocrats or monarchist, the other being the party of the people, Democrats, Republican, Whigs, or Liberals. Jefferson obviously was on the people's side of this paradigm. The authoritarian side of this has changed. Not only that, but both current U.S. parties have the names of historic anti-authoritarian parties. Both parties claim that they're for individual freedom, and they both claim that the other is trying to take away freedom from the individual or a minority class. Political parties may now and then answer popular ends. They are likely in the course of time and things to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterwards the very engines which have lifted them to unjust dominion. Were parties here divided merely by a greediness for office, to take a part with either would be unworthy of a reasonable or moral man. It is the steady abuse of power in other governments which renders that of the opposition always the popular party. I hope we shall crush in its birth the aristocracy of our moneyed corporations, which dare already to challenge our government to a trial of strength and bid defiance to the laws of our country. The aristocracy lives on through the corporation. As we know from recent history, all promises of restoration of individual rights are gone shortly after the election. Then they go to work chipping away at the rights still available, handing those rights to themselves, Wall Street, corporations, unions, or whoever orchestrated their rise to power. Next election, the backlash starts the process of returning the power to the other party, who is offering to restore some of the lost rights. They have no intention of doing anything other than repaying the powers that got them elected. Disregard the one or two bones they throw you. There is no solution to the loss of our individual rights to the corporation or the government within the two-party system. The parties hate people who think for themselves. They want candidates who conform exactly to the party platform. Any outsider must be crushed. The romanticized version of the corporation is one that portrays it as private and competitive. Collective and individual are opposites. A private business owned by a person or a family is the only form of private business. When one of these private businesses incorporates and issues stock, it's called going public. It's sold to the public through stock. In communism, all business is publicly owned. The true antithesis to Marxism is actually individual private business. Both the corporation and the state-owned business are owned by the public. They are both collectivist entities, they are both in opposition to the individual, and they are both in opposition to competition. They seek to remove individual power and hand that power to what the collectivists call the public. The past generations were led to believe that being pro-corporate was patriotic because they felt the corporation empowered us to overcome Soviet communism. This is a deception. The more empowered the localized unit, the more empowered the society as a whole. The corporations have created a specialized society in such a way that opposes strength. This is the greatest threat to America's national security, not some CIA-trained, rich Arab supervillain. We have been weakened to the point that many of these corporations have been called too big to fail by the government. Why? Well, it's said that they can't fail because it would be a national security threat, meaning the society could break down if the corporation failed. Now we have accepted their worldview, their lie, that the measure of a man is monetary wealth. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit, because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. I know of no pursuit in which more real and important services can be rendered to any country than by improving its agriculture, its breed of useful animals, and other branches of husbandman's care. If we are to believe Wall Street, the market god, using the force, creates a balance where business can regulate itself. The force known as unbridled greed has no hope of doing away with its most valuable tool for creating unquenchable gluttony: subliminal messages. They say it to your face: you are a consumer. Consume means eat or use. You are a eater. You are a user. The banks and the credit card companies, the feudal lords of our new serfdom. I own it to be my opinion that good will arise from the destruction of our credit. I see nothing else which can restrain our disposition to luxury, and to the change of those manners which alone can preserve the Republican government. It is impossible to prevent credit. The best way would be to cure its ill effects by giving an instantaneous recovery to the creditor. This would be reducing purchases on credit to purchases for ready money. A man would then see a prison painted on everything he wished, but had not ready money to pay for. From this we know that Thomas Jefferson believed debt was slavery. The maxim of buying nothing without the money in our pockets to pay for it would make our country one of the happiest on earth. There must be some regulation, at least to regulate subliminal manipulation. It is far from acceptable to use mind control to enslave us through debt. An individual can have morality, but a corporation cannot. At the very least, business cannot be allowed the use of mind control. The extent that man will go to manipulate one another for profit or power is amazing. It's the backbone of all human history. The selfish spirit of commerce knows no country and feels no passion or principle but that of gain. We must take back the power, wean ourselves from the corporate nipple. Its vile poison puts our mind in the cradle and our body on a sofa. Besides, it's sweetened with genetically engineered corn syrup. I'm not saying go cold turkey. Once you have a firm grasp on the level of manipulation the corporation uses to coerce you out of the fruits of your labor, it comes naturally. Bartering, buying from family businesses, producing your own food, furniture, clothing, etc. Preferring natural over artificial. We are so out of touch with our humanity that most people are horrified, or at least think it's unusual, to behead one of my extra chickens to feed family and guests. Yeah? Well, my chicken had a good life, unlike that one you sat in drive-thru at Burger King for. That genetic freak was so shot up with hormones and antibiotics it couldn't even stand up. Bet those antibiotics taste good, huh? In reality, serving a guest with some of your livestock has been a great honor since the beginning and throughout all of history, up until we entered the brainwashed age. We are so compartmentalized that we can't even face the reality of where our food comes from. If you're like that, you can put down your survival gear now. Are we so blinded by comfort that we cannot answer which nation is stronger? The one who buys most of their needs at a store, or the one who can fulfill most of their own needs? When disaster hits a strong society, they can prevail. The basic skills humans have passed down are critical in times of distress. For all of human history, man has had the common connection of farming, hunting, ranching, fishing, foraging, providing shelter and warmth. Jesus' parables involve these time-transcending activities. Everyone can understand the dynamics of sowing a seed, or can they? It's these activities that define being human and humanity itself, at least when we're not at war. Now it's the internet, the pinnacle of man's mechanization that connects us. Welcome to the brave new world.